It's time to return with Batman Week. Da 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 da. So we get to continue with Batman Forever. I'll give you a little backstory on Batman Forever. See, Batman Returns in 1992 was still a pretty big success. It was even a success with critics. It was actually more critically acclaimed than the other Batman movie. Well, except for with Siskel and Ebert, but like overall, but it didn't do quite as well as the first Batman movie did. But it was still pretty successful. Now it still had that grip on the audience like the other Batman movies did. Now Batman Forever is a totally different direction than the other Batman movies. See, what happened is the studio kept getting humongous complaints, like from parents, companies who wanted to sponsor the movie, like McDonald's. They all wanted to, help with Batman, but they dropped it, like all like McDonald's and commercials like, I don't know, Pepsi, something like that. They all dropped the movie for it being too dark. And the parents all over the world, apparently I hear rumors. I don't know, I wasn't born in 1992, but I heard like people took their kids to see the movie and the kids were running out crying. Actually, I heard that the movie did as good as the first Batman movie, but the thing was people kept wanting their money back because people took their kids to it and it made kids cry. That's what I heard. Like, adults, sended letters to Warner Brothers like, how could you make Batman so dark? This isn't the Batman I grew up. I grew up with fun, campy Adam West Batman, and you bring us this penguin who wants to drown babies and bites people's noses with gushing blood. Now, I could see the drowning babies part, but other than that, the movie I thought was not that dark. I thought it was actually quite opposite. I thought it was kind of goofy, in kind of a dark way, but it was still like goofy. But apparently it didn't settle right with mainstream audiences. Somebody like the guy who owns Warner Brothers, he wrote a really nasty thing about his own movie. He said, after I was done watching Batman Returns, I felt like I was mugged. Apparently mainstream audiences hated Batman Returns because it wasn't the Batman they're used to. And I don't get why mainstream audiences like Batman 89. I mean, that movie had pretty dark moments, like when the Joker burnt the mob guy and with his hand buzzer, or him falling into a vat of chemicals laughing maniacally when he gets plastic surgery. There's a lot of dark elements, to that movie. But I guess it didn't bother mainstream audiences as much as the penguin biting the nose and gushing blood. And I can see the baby, drowning baby. I mean, you heard my rant in the other one. But a lot of people said, this was way too dark, and they wanted to go into, they would have loved to seen a Batman movie like the ones they grew up with Adam West. So the company took that quite literal. They told Tim Burton to go in this new direction or you'll be canned. And Tim Burton and Michael Keaton did not want to go in this direction. They actually already had a script. Tim Burton and his writers already had a script for the third Batman movie. It was supposed to be called Batman Continues. It was supposed to take place after Batman Returns, and I think it was supposed to come out like the same time Batman Forever was, like 95. And it was supposed to have Michael Keaton back as Batman, but he got like a new suit, a new Batmobile. It was supposed to have Michelle Pfeiffer back as Catwoman, and it was supposed to, I mean, they left her standing at the end of the movie. If you watch Batman Returns, she was just looking at the bat signals. I don't think they did that for nothing. So they probably were like, so apparently they brought her back in the original script, and the original script did have the Riddler as the bad guy. It didn't have Two-Face, but it did have the Riddler as the bad guy. It was actually supposed to be the Riddler and the Scarecrow, but they're gonna have Robin Williams play the Riddler, because Robin Williams said he always wanted to be in a Batman movie. So Tim Burton's like, let's get him, and they were gonna have the Scarecrow played by like Charlie Sheen or something like that. I can't remember. And it was supposed to be like continuation of, it was supposed to have those, gothic art deco style to the buildings and the way it was filmed. It was supposed to be, Batman Continues. But Warner Brothers read the script and were like, no, we don't want to continue in this direction. It was actually apparently darker than Batman Returns. Like the Edward Nygma Riddler, played by Robin Williams, apparently had like a shaved head with a question mark on it, and apparently like I don't know, it was supposed to be darker. They didn't really give any more details on it. But they said, you know what? And Tim Burton's like, you know what? I don't want to continue in the direction I want to go. I don't want to make the Adam West style Batman. I want to continue in my own way of doing things. So the company was like, okay, leave. You're fired. And so they fired Tim Burton, but they kept him on as producer. They just didn't have him as writer or director. So they got Joel Schumacher to replace him. Now, Joel Schumacher has done a lot of good movies like Falling Down and Phone Booth. And they replaced Batman with Val Kilmer. They replaced Two-Face. Now, they replaced the Riddler with Jim Carrey, because Jim Carrey was like the highest paid actor. And I like Jim Carrey as the Riddler, but I would have loved to see Robin Williams Riddler. He probably might have done it better. I don't know. And they got, instead of Scarecrow, they got Two-Face. Now, Two-Face in the original Batman was played by, Harvey Dent was played by Billy D. Williams, who's known for Lando Calrissian and the 80s Batman movie and his Colt 45 commercials. And he was cast in the original 89 Batman for Harvey Dent because he said he wanted to play Two-Face. And they didn't ask him to come back. They went with Tommy Lee Jones. Now, I have no problem with recasting, but this is kind of a racial issue here, and it just makes this movie seem pretty far in continuity with the other Batman movies. Because Tommy Lee Jones is white as day. He looks nothing like Billy D. Williams. If they were going to recast him, why couldn't they just recast him with another black actor at the time? Maybe they thought Billy D. Williams was, not that popular. I mean, he was in Star Wars. I mean, how popular is Star Wars? But they thought, Billy D. Williams isn't really a mainstream name, so they got Tommy Lee Jones. And why not get Samuel Jackson to play him? He was huge at the time. Why not get another really famous black actor like Lawrence Fishburne? Why do you have to go with the opposite looking guy to play Two-Face? I don't get that. At least Val Kilmer does look a little bit like Michael Keaton. Like, the thing is, he has blonde hair. I don't know why they didn't dye his hair browner. But like his like chin, and not quite his eyes, but like this part, the part you can usually see when you play Batman, does look like Michael Keaton. So I can see why they casted Val Kilmer. But why do they go in a completely opposite direction with Two-Face? I mean, they brought back Michael Koff as the butler and Pat Hingle as the Commissioner Gordon. Just those two things make this movie apparently in continuity with the other movies. Like, I don't get why they didn't just go out for a flat-out reboot. Why not? I mean, you're going in a completely different style. You're going with almost 95% new cast, a new soundtrack, and you don't even bring back the right guy to play Two-Face. And I know Two-Face was white in the comics, but it just seems really odd that you have a black man play Two-Face in Batman 89, and you have a white Cracker play Two-Face in Batman Forever. It's just, I don't know why it's just making the continuity really confusing, you know? I'm standing up for you, black people. I don't think it's anything to do with racism. I think it's just with name recognizable, brand recognition, I should say. Name recognition. People know who Tommy Lee Jones was. At the time, he was an A-list actor, and he they brought him into this. I'll get to that, his acting later, but it's just really weird. So I might as well get on to a review of the movie. So Batman Forever, doesn't have the cool shadows that the first movie had. It didn't have the cool Art Deco style to the buildings. It's like completely different looking Gotham. It looks like Tokyo, okay? It doesn't look like the other Batman. We get a new Batmobile, which I don't think is as cool as the other Tim Burton Batmobile. But you know what? It's not a bad looking Batmobile. It's like if you mix a Tim Burton Batmobile with something like something weird. Like it looks more like a neon lit. The Batmobile is supposed to hide in the shadows, and this looks like a neon lit disco ball. But this movie has some good parts to it. I was entertained by this movie. Like I said, I like Val Kilmer as Batman. I don't get why they didn't do anything to his hair, but I could see why they would pick him. I mean, he's not as good as Michael Keaton. Like, he doesn't have Michael Keaton's, charming grin or his, normal-looking looks. Like, he still tries to be that traditionally Hollywood A-list looking good actor. Bruce Wayne type, but he's still a really good Batman. What I like about him is the other Batman didn't really talk that much, which I really like because they add mystery to it. But this Batman, he does talk a lot, but he talks like a detective. He really does. Val Kilmer, like, he has this voice, and the way he's asking questions, it's like a detective. And yeah, he has some stupid lines like, "I'll get drive-through," and so on. He actually kind of sounds like Kevin Conroy's Batman voice if you listen to it, but it's not as, you don't feel the emotional pain that Kevin Conroy has, and this one is completely you don't feel the weight in the person's voice. But I like his Batman because he brings that detective mode that Batman, should have, because he is like a detective. He's a vigilante. So I really like Val Kilmer's Batman. And even when he says corny lines, he says it in a way that doesn't seem that stupid. I don't know, it's kind of hard to say. Like, he actually tries to do something with it. Like, George Clooney does nothing with it. He just says it, and it's just really corny, which is another topic. So I do like Val Kilmer's Batman. Even though I don't get why they went with a totally different aspect to this, and and apparently it's not even rebooted. I don't get why they didn't just reboot the series, but I already said that. But I do like the look of Gotham. It's not as cool as the other Gotham, but it's more of looks more like a Las Vegas type. Tokyo, I don't know, like one of those really bright cities. Like it actually looks more like New York did in the 90s, 2000s, whereas Batman in 89 looked like what New York did in the 80s and 70s and 80s. It's more like run down, and the other one's more neon lit. They just wanted to go for a brighter look, and the brighter look isn't a bad looking look. I mean, it's an interesting design for Gotham. I mean, I don't totally hate it, but so the city looks not bad. I mean, it's not cool like the other one was, but it's not terrible. Now Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. Okay, you heard me rant about how I don't get why the continuity didn't mesh with the other Batman movies by having him white, but throw that aside, I do like his performance. I mean, it's not a good performance, but if you have this mindset that it's supposed to pay homage, this Batman movie, to the Adam West Batman, man, does Tommy Lee Jones act like Cesar Romero. He is very similar to the Cesar Romero. Actually, he's more like the Joker than he is Two-Face. I mean, he has like this maniacal laugh, and he's like over the top and full of energy. It's more like the Joker than it is Two-Face. You know, Two-Face is more mean and, you know, I don't want to say mean, but maybe more serious. Not as energetic as a character. He's actually supposed to be more of a depressing, psychopathic character, whereas this one is full of energy, laughing all the time, more like the Joker. But I like it. I mean, he really reminds me of Cesar Romero's, because Cesar Romero's, you know, did have that over the top laughter that he had that was kind of funny and and kind of fun to watch on screen. He's not like quite like Jack Nicholson, whereas you know Jack Nicholson was more, you know, not really goofy, but he had a lot of energy to the character. He wasn't goofy though. I mean, he did have goofy moments, but he wasn't like always goofy. This one is crazy goofy, like the Cesar Romero Joker. Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face, and sometimes it feels like overacting, but you can't help but to kind of like his performance. Um, then we get kind of to the best part of the movie. You know what the best part of the movie is? Jim Carrey's Riddler. Now, at first, I don't really like him, you know, because I mean, I love Jim Carrey, but he just acts like Jim Carrey, and you want to see the Riddler. But once he's in the green outfit, it's just really he's more like Jack Nicholson's Joker with a little goofiness, a little more goofiness, but like not always goofy. Like he brings, because he's Jim Carrey, he brings this. He actually reminds me a lot of the Frank Gorshin Riddler a lot. He's you know very kind of like bulgy eyed, skinny, um, hyper, you know, nutcase who's obsessed with riddles. And I like how they kind of make him obsessed with Batman. Like he has like a man crush on him, and he's like, that's what makes him turn into the Riddler is because Bruce Wayne, well not Batman, but Bruce Wayne, like he's obsessed with Bruce Wayne, like and almost in an unhealthy, creepy way. Um, and that helps him transition into the Riddler. Which is okay, but it's just seems kind of funny. I guess you could say funny because it is really funny, but it's not. You can't really take it seriously. You can't take Jim Carrey's role seriously, even though I love his performance he does when he's the Riddler, but you can't take it seriously, especially when he's like, "I hope you understood." And I know Jim Carrey's a comedian, but I guess this movie's trying to go to try to strive to be a comedy. Maybe it's taking that route that, you know, Chucky, Nightmare on Elm Street, and the the I don't want to say Star Trek, the RoboCop movies took, is where as it starts out serious, but as the movie goes on, it turns more goofy and more into a comedy, making fun of itself. And that's kind of what Jim Carrey's Riddler, not just the whole movie, kind of feels like. So I do like it, the energy he brings to the screen, and he does feel like the Frank Gorshin Riddler. But you know, he's okay. He's a little cuckoo. But that's just a little gimmick. But you know, then we get to Nicole Kidman, Chase Meridian. That's her character's name. Again, she's very similar to Vicky Bell. She's not a scream queen, but she has like no interesting aspects to her. I guess you could say not much personality. Whereas you know Michelle Pfeiffer, Selena's Kyle, Catwoman was you know very sarcastic, had a lot of personality in her performance, because she acts like a cat and actually has like a sarcastic personality of trying to get Batman. She just kind of comes off as creepy. I don't want to say creepy, but like not all. She's not walking all her dogs on the same leash. I guess she's not like a fun crazy like Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman was, but she's kind of a corny, uncomfortable crazy, because she's like obsessed with Batman. Like she finds Batman's suit attractive. She doesn't care who he is. She just loves Batman so much. Like she's just enthralled with him, and it's just kind of like, is that all you can have to the character? I mean, yeah, she is kind of a damsel in distress, and there's just not much to her character except for her being in love with Batman's suit. You know, yay. But Chris O'Donnell as Robin, I like him and I don't like him. Like he feels like a guy in a cartoon commercial. He feels like a guy in a toy commercial. Like his performance really feels like that. Like he feels like he's trying to be more of a Ninja Turtle rather than Robin. And you know what? I do like the Ninja Turtles, and I do like him being that, you know, young, naive psychic. I like how he's actually they make him a mirror of Batman. Like he had his parents killed by a maniac, and he wants to protect this, help Batman fight crime to make him feel better about his parents. I like how they make him similar to Batman, but on the other hand, he just feels more like a Ninja Turtle than he does Robin. He really does. And I like how he pays homage to Burt Ward by saying, "Holy rusted metal, Batman." You know, but that was only like one time, and it kind of felt kind of forced. Um, what was I gonna say? The music is a new score. I like Danny Elfman's score better, but this one's kind of it's not a bad score, you know, but it's not as good as Danny Elfman's. But it's similar, but maybe more loud, and tries to be more energetic, I guess you could say, rather than heroic. This one tries to be more energetic, which I guess is fine. You know, it's just not as memorable as Danny Elfman's score. So, the plot I do is, you know, normal villain of the week plot. Try to stop the Riddler from turning your. Actually, you know what it really reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of the 1940s Batman um, plot. Like, villain's motivation is he has this machine that turns people into zombies, and Jim Carrey's Riddler has a machine that turns people into mindless zombies through their televisions. Only maybe Jim Carrey's was bigger, but they're very similar, like motivations. Um, so they're just trying to stop Two Face from. They're trying to catch Two Face, and they're trying to stop the Riddler from turning everybody into brainless zombies. Whereas Two Face and the Riddler team up to try to figure out who Batman is, and the Riddler has this contraption that manipulates brainwaves, and he can read people's minds and get their IQ. It's, you know, normal comic book take over the world stuff. But what I really like about, well, not really, but kind of, you know, clever about Tommy Lee Jones's Two Face is that he always says us or the two of us. Like, he's actually two personalities. Like, we'll drive, or we're both sorry, or you saved us both. Like, he always includes his multiple personality, and so does the Riddler. He's like, the both of ya better calm down. um, I finally got it when I watched this time why he said, and me, like he said it twice. It was both his personalities talking. And so, both personalities seem exactly the same. That's the only thing about, like, this personality seems as crazy as the other personality. Like, there's no difference between the personality except for he has like two girlfriends, two different color rooms. One is black and one is white. Um, but it's they both personality wise, both of Two Face, like there's not a calm side to Two Face. They're just both crazy. I wish they would have had more, like maybe the other side's more calm and tries to figure things out and no negotiations, whereas the other one just wants to blow people's faces off. Um, I don't know why they didn't do it more like that, but I guess they just wanted to be more over the top. So I guess that's all I really have to say about Batman Forever. Is it great? No. Is it good? Not really. Is it okay? Yeah, it's good. I mean, I say it's actually good. It is good. It's entertaining. I get entertaining. There are some good parts to it, but there's bad parts to it. I think there's slightly more bad to it than good, or maybe slightly more, a little more good than bad, but the bad is almost like it's like an equal movie. I'm on the fence about this movie. As a kid, I love this movie. I love the colors. I like Batman, fighting crime. Oh yeah, another quick mention is these Two Faces henchmen are like the worst henchmen in the world. They're big buff guys, and one gets knocked out from a punch from Nicole Kidman. Really? These are like the worst henchmen of all time in a Batman movie. Um, but that's a little quick tangent. It's I'd say it's a 2.5 out of 4 stars. I'd say it's about a 69. I'd give it about a 72%. It's got some nice looking colors. It's got some good casting, but doesn't really jive with continuity. Got some really over the top parts to it, and feels more like a mainstream, bright colored, dumbing down cash grab than it is than the other Batmans were more sophisticated and character developed driven. Whereas this one just kind of seems like kind of like a flat line, just Batman fighting crime and a few good acting here and there. There's this movie has really good acting and really bad acting. Like Robin, um, Nicole Kidman, and the Butler and Commissioner Gordon are like terrible in this movie, like acting. But Val Kilmer, um, Jim Carrey, and Tommy Lee Jones are actually really good actors. I mean, they're not like Oscar worthy, but they're actually pretty good actors, and they're doing their best with the material. Now, everybody seems to blame Joel Schumacher. I don't. I blame Warner Brothers. I blame the writers. I blame Warner Brothers for going in this direction. And apparently, this movie was successful, but then it fails with Batman and Robin, and I'll get to that later, in another video. But this movie wasn't bad. I can't say it's bad, but I can't say it's great either. I'd say it's good. Um, like good minus. It's I'd give it about a C, 72%. And if you're a Batman fan, you probably find it entertaining. If you're like one of those mainstream audiences who just wants to see a movie and eat popcorn, you'll really like this. But if you want something more sophisticated, deeper in thought, deeper in atmosphere, and had more atmosphere and feeling to it that you had with the other two Tim Burton Batman movies, you'll probably be really disappointed. So I mean, I like it, but it's not a Batman movie I want to watch every day. You know, it's got some funny parts to it. It's got some good parts to it, but it's got some negatives to it. I think my number one negative is it doesn't the continuity doesn't jive with the other Batman movies. Like I could see them going with in another direction and tone, but at least have it jive in continuity. Only two things have this save this from looking like a complete reboot, which I don't know why they didn't just do. This is pretty much the Butler, Alfred, and Commissioner Gordon being the same people as with the other Tim Burton Batman movies. And it's produced by Tim Burton. And I think that's because since it was produced by Tim Burton, he didn't have total control in the movie because he wasn't director or writer, but he had a little bit. So I think that's what Tim Burton is pretty much what saves this movie. Like he had some say so on what to do, but on some things. So that's probably why the movie doesn't completely suck. I mean, the movie actually doesn't suck. It's actually a better than that. It's actually not bad. But it's not great either. I mean, Schumacher probably didn't, and the Warner Brothers didn't have complete control because Tim Burton was still involved. Tim Burton wasn't at all involved. Tim Burton was executive producer with this movie, but with Batman and Robin, Schumacher and Warner Brothers had complete control. And you know what? Actually, Joel Schumacher did want to do a darker Batman movie, a prequel called Batman Year One. But Warner Brothers like, no, you do it this direction, and he listened. So Schumacher probably just didn't want to lose his job. And I can't blame Joel Schumacher for Batman going in this direction and failing. I blame Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers wanted to dumb it down and sell it to mainstream audiences rather than making something that is smarter than that. That's why movies like Transformers get made. See, because the mainstream audiences can't understand what real art is, okay? But I'm not saying that this movie is good. I'm probably more ranting about Batman and Robin. But this movie, it is actually it is good. It's probably Tim Burton that because he stayed on as producer, had some say-so on what to do, I mean, I know producer pretty much does nothing. All they do is really get a paycheck, but he probably did, since he had some involvement with it, he probably had some say-sos on what to do and what not to do. So Tim Burton, even though it's still like 70% Warner Brothers and Schumacher, at least 30% of it as Tim Burton's decisions, and that's probably he makes it from not sucking. If Tim Burton wasn't involved with this, I'm pretty sure it probably would have flat out sucked like Batman and Robin. If Tim Burton was involved with Batman and Robin, it probably would have been the same as this. Not quite on bad level, but it's actually still good, but it's not like great. Like it's not a great Batman movie. Like I said, Mask of the Phantasm treated us more like adults than this one did, and the cartoony one felt more realistic and complex than the live action one, which felt more cartoony and dumbed down. So I give this movie 2.5 stars. 70 out of 72% out of 100. If you're a Batman fan, you'll like it. Again, if you're a mainstream moviegoer who just wants to sit down with his family and watch a movie, have some popcorn, you'll really like it. But if you're a Batman fan that like the complex nature of the Tim Burton movies and the really cool style to the Tim Burton movies, you'll probably really not like this movie. So, that's all I have to say. I like it. I thought, I love Val Kilmer. I mean, I really like Val Kilmer. I really like Jim Carrey, and I really like Tommy Lee Jones, and I really liked some of the sets are really good. Like you could tell they spent a lot of money on the sets. Like this Batcave looked cooler than Tim Burton's Batman Batcave, because you could tell that one seemed kind of smaller. It was just like a cliff with the car on the side. It felt more like a cave, I guess I should say. But this one is actually more bigger. It has a lot more technology in it. Like, Tim Burton's Batman was like a big computer thing. That's it. This one has a lot of it. Like, it looks like something like you would see in a science fiction movie. But it's just I really like the look of the Batcave and some of the set buildings, the Riddler's lair looked pretty cool. So you could tell they spent a lot of money on the sets because the sets look very elaborate. So I do like the sets. I do like Two-Face's costume. His makeup looks a little cheap, and I like the Riddler look. It looks like Frank Gorshin's Riddler. Um, but it has some good parts and it got some bad parts. Continuity didn't always drive. The acting was terrible. Some of the characters were just not didn't have anything to him, like Nicole Kidman's Chase Meridian or even Chris O'Donnell's Robin. You know, just felt like a Ninja Turtle. I wish Robin was more like, I don't know. They wish they would have spent more time on writing Robin's character. Um, and some of having pointless things in it to try to fill in continuity, like Commissioner Gordon, the same act, Pat Hingle and Michael Koff are still in it, which I don't get why they didn't just go for a flat out reboot. But I guess just by those two characters, this is not a reboot. It's still supposed to be another continuity. But why didn't you cast Two-Face with Billy D. Williams? And it's both a blessing and a curse because I like Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. Like I said, it's a really goofy performance, but it really reminds me of the Cesar Romero Joker, and it has a lot of energy to it. But it just doesn't go with continuity with the other Batman movies, and black people must have been mad. I mean, Billy D. Williams was replaced by Tommy Lee Jones. I'm not racist, okay? But I'm actually sticking up for the black acting community because that must have really hurt when you saw that Billy D. Williams was replaced with Tommy Lee Jones, and Tommy Lee Jones was good as Two-Face, but it just didn't go with the continuity. Um, but I ranted long enough on this movie. It's not the best Batman movie, but it's not completely the worst. I would say it's the one of the weakest, but it's not the worst. I'd say it's one of the weakest. It was still good, but it's not the worst. So I guess that's all I have to say. I recommend it for Batman fans and mainstream audiences, but those who are a fan of Tim Burton, you probably would be disappointed. So subscribe, comment. Feel free to comment. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video, which is gonna be pretty epic rant.